So I shot a whole video and I kept plugging this channel and I kept saying the name wrong. It's Springfield Syndrome, not Springfield Symposium. I'm just a moron. Anyway, on with the video. Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? Today's plug is for a G.I. Joe fan fiction, which was written and then recorded on audio, and I believe it's available as a podcast. I found it here on YouTube. The story is called Shadows of Valor. Right now, it is incomplete. There are currently 8 installments. I would say altogether they average about 45 minutes apiece. So you're looking at about 6 hours so far. I thought the 8 installments comprised the entire story, but when I got to the end last week or maybe the week before, it didn't really wrap up, and I left a comment, and the channel replied, and it said, "Yeah, we're partway through. We got to write some more. We got a lot more stuff going on." It sounds like the guy who runs the channel is more or less doing what I'm doing. He's a busy guy. It's a day job, or he has a day job, and then he's doing this on the side. And hey, if you like this, review it and that kind of thing. So a kindred spirit there, you might say. The channel is called Springfield Symposium.
Syndrome.
And he not only does this story, he also publishes other, I'm assuming that it's other fan fiction style work, and some short stories that might be submitted, or might be like, some staff that run the channel. I don't know. I've listened to one or two of the other kind of homegrown short story creations, and I listened to one today. It was about 25 minutes long. It wasn't bad. It was just kind of unsurprising. It was a bit of an atmospheric horror story. These people live in a small town. There's a haunted restaurant that they see, and nobody ever actually eats there. So the girlfriend dares the boyfriend to go take them there on a date, and they go in, and it's it's a horror restaurant. Oh, it's scary. We serve body parts, and so they leave, and they never talk about it again. It's like uh, atmospheric, but unsurprising in the execution. The audio production on these specials, though, on these shorts, is pretty good. And I especially like the narrator that they use for the G.I. Joe Shadows of Valor story. His name is Thomas Richter. He sounds a lot like R.C. Bray. It's one of those guys, you listen to him, and if you listen to a lot of audiobooks like I do, especially the kind of audiobooks I do, like, man, this guy sounds really familiar. I don't think that there's AI used in the narration. There is occasionally a word that's pronounced weird, and there's some very obvious, like, choppy editing and stuff. Here and there, like, randomly, you can tell that there's a line that they said wrong, and they re-recorded it and put it in, and it sounds different. It's not bad. It's just noticeable. That's all. But I'm curious to see where the story goes from there. Now that I'm 3 minutes into this, the Shadows of Valor story is kind of a world, like right as World War II ends, it's an origin story for G.I. Joe. It features General Patton as a character, finding some dark Nazi science layers where they're researching cryotechnology. And it's rough. It's not completely perfectly developed, but as he discovers this Nazi science lab, they find out some other stuff, and they start to put some pieces together, and they realize that there's another element going, active in the war, even though, like, the real war is over. There's this other group. Obviously, it's hinting at it that it's going to be some proto version of Cobra, and so Patton's like, we need to start a new group, and we need to fund it, and they're going to need to run counter to these other entities, whether it's Cobra, whether it's the Soviets, or what have you. One of the best installments, and I think it might have been like episode 5 or something. It was okay. So I'm not a perfectly well-versed fan of G.I. Joe. I know some of the general pieces, but I don't know the original lore. But they talk about how they need a corporation that can funnel money into G.I. Joe, and it has to sound really generic so that nobody looks into it. And so they end up coming up with Extensive Enterprises, which is a company from G.I. Joe, but they're a weapons manufacturer, and they are run by the crazy identical twin brothers, Tomax and Zaymot. And in fact, they're even a competitor for Mars Industries, run by Destro. So I'm curious to see what they do with that. But the implication is that they use a bunch of patents to create generic but big selling products like Coca-Cola or something like that. And that's the money that they use to fund GI Joe in this fight against stealth terror elements going forward. So the point is that the ideas in this are very strong, and they address the kind of questions that an analytical reader might have for, hey, how did a group like GI Joe get its start? Who's paying for it? How do they do this? Yeah, I think that stuff like that lends to its value as a story, because it's more than just like, okay, here's a good guy, here's a bad guy, they shoot each other, the good guys win. You put some thought into it, give seasoned readers something to sink their teeth into if you're going to do an audiobook production. They've got some other tie-ins. There's one that I've bookmarked. It's about 3.5 hours long, maybe a little bit more. It's a 40K story, and I've enjoyed plenty of those, so I'll check that one out. But I subbed to the channel earlier this summer, and I thought I'll read Shadows of Valor, and I'll review it on the channel and give them a boost. At the end of all their episodes, they do that thing where they're like, hey, like and subscribe, give us a review, it really helps. It sounds like they're on Apple Podcasts, and they're also on Spotify. I don't use either of those services. I hate Spotify. So why don't I just give them a boost here? I'll link them down in the description, and I'll put also the playlist for those G.I. Joe videos. Content warning, a couple of the episodes have F-bombs in them, and there was a couple of grotesque fight scenes, dudes getting shot and stabbed, just typical World War II stuff that you might expect. Sorry, I got trash rattling around in here. But it was good. They also do AI music that's themed after, popular properties. I get the feeling that that's more of a, hey, we do this to market and to catch waves in the algorithm and to show people that we're out here. And they do some popular stuff, and then they also do some lesser known stuff. And they've done a couple of Larry Correia things. I feel like I found them a week before they started doing songs for Larry. So they did one that's an MHI song, and then they just released one last week for American Paladin on, now that I think of it, September 10th. It was the day after it funded. That went live, and then a couple of hours later, Charlie Kirk was murdered by an insane person. So all of this is to say, like I said, a recommendation so far for what I've enjoyed from Springfield Symposium. I think if you like a lot of the fiction that I've shared here, you might like them. And check out their G.I. Joe fanfic story, Shadows of Valor. It's well done, and it's worth a listen. Drive safe. See you out there.